Having thought that her empty apartment meant Junghyuk and the teammates had returned to North Korea, Seri bursts into tears when she realizes they were actually throwing her a surprise birthday party. Overcome with emotion, she runs outside, and Junghyuk follows her. Seeing that she's embarrassed, he gently gives her a back hug and softly says that this day will always be special to him, because it's the day he's grateful the person he loves is alive. Junghyuk gently asks Seri if she'll cry like that when he really does leave, but Seri quickly says she won't. She tells him he should go home soon, worried that if he stays in South Korea too long, returning might become impossible. She reassures him that she has the means to protect herself from Chul Kang or anyone else. Inside, the teammates are shaken after seeing Seri cry for the first time. Manbok quietly brings up the time she missed her flight, and the others stare at him in disbelief. Jisoo exclaims, "Just how much were you listening to us?" Manbok heads downstairs to call Junghyuk and Seri back inside, but as he steps out, a strange feeling washes over him. He senses something off, something dangerous, though he doesn't see Chul Kang silently driving away into the night. Back upstairs, Seri tells the teammates she was just surprised, brushing off her tears. She accidentally complains about the old-fashioned cake, and everyone turns to look at Junghyuk. His proud expression falters just a little, but the moment quickly shifts as they light the candles and sing the North Korean version of Happy Birthday. Seri smiles and teaches them how to make a wish, and they all blow out the candles together, a quiet, sweet moment of connection. Later that night, Junghyuk visits Seri's room with a small gift. He's adorably shy about it, repeating that it's nothing special, though his nervousness says otherwise. Finally, Seri grabs his hand and gently pries it open, revealing a gold ring. It's too big, so she slips it onto her thumb with a laugh. But Junghyuk stops her, saying that one is his, and then hands her a smaller one. It's couple rings. He carefully puts the ring on her finger, and Seri teases him, saying that for someone who's never dated, he's surprisingly good at making a woman's heart flutter. Then she slides his ring onto his finger and softly says she'll always remember him. Meanwhile, up north, Dan's mother pays a visit to the village and runs into Wolsuk and Okjum. Wolsuk mentions seeing a strange man entering the apartment meant for Dan and Junghyuk. Luckily, Dan's mother came prepared, handing out gifts for them to be quiet. She claims the man is her nephew, Alberto, recently back from Europe, but the village women exchange a knowing glance. It's clearly a lie, and they're not buying it for a second. Dan's mom heads up to the apartment and runs into Seungjoon, who immediately turns on the charm full force. He explains that Dan got drunk and that he was just about to bring her some hangover soup, then kneels with dramatic politeness to apologize for Dan's behavior. Mom barely manages to drag herself away from Seungjoon's smooth talk and heads to the bedroom to smack Dan awake. Seungjoon pokes his head in to invite Mom to dinner, and she immediately recognizes the side dishes, the same ones Dan had stolen from her own fridge. Suspicious, Mom asks Seungjoon what exactly his relationship is with Dan. He answers honestly, "I have a crush on Dan. I know she's engaged to another man." Her mother asks why he likes her, and he earnestly lists her discipline, sternness, and noble elegance. Mom gives him a suspicious stink eye, clearly unconvinced by his smooth delivery, but later in private, she tells Dan that she actually likes him. Dan insists that there's nothing between them, and says she still intends to marry Junghyuk when he returns from the demilitarized zone, unaware that he's already in Seoul. Back in Seoul, Jung-hyuk tracks down Chul-kang's lackey, manager Oh. He grabs him with a painful neckpinch as punishment for arranging a meeting and then sending thugs to attack him. Manager Oh admits that he isn't loyal to the people he works with, and Jung-hyuk replies coldly that he doesn't need loyalty, just the truth. Meanwhile, Seri asks Manbok about their scheduled return with the World Military Games athletes in a few days. Manbok confirms that Jung-hyuk's father took a big risk setting it up and that Jung-hyuk won't be safe if he misses the bus. Seri insists that Jung-hyuk has to go back no matter what. Wanting to give the teammates a gift, Seri gives them her black credit card and tells them to go buy themselves some stylish clothes and anything else they want. They're thrown off by things like pre-torn jeans, until Kwangbum tries them on and looks fantastic, and Yoon-dong falls in love with a reindeer hat with flappy ears. Sangha has been snooping around collecting information on Seri, and she calls another meeting with the board of Seri's choice. She wants to vote again regarding becoming the new CEO, this time basing it on whether Seri is suitable to run the company. She's ready to spill all the details about Seri's disappearance, but before she gets started, Seri's stepmother shows up. In private, Sangha claims that she's only trying to make Sehyung successful, but stepmom snaps that she's not about to sacrifice one child for another. She says that she and Chairman Yu know where Seri was, as well as the fact that Sehyung and Sangha tried to stop her from returning home, and she tells Sangha to bring Sehyung home from Hong Kong and come see them immediately. While Seri is at work and Jung-hyuk is pretending to be her bodyguard, Secretary Hong shows Seri a late-night drunken plea to get back together that her ex-boyfriend posted online. He mentions several other guys she's dated also, shooting nervous looks at Jung-hyuk. Seri scolds her assistants to get back to work. Once they're alone, Seri claims that those men were just passing through her life, and Jung-hyuk sulks at her to tell him if he's one of those passing through guys. Seri teases him that he took too long to find her, and that it was difficult dating so many men without finding the one. Since they're together now, they decide to take a day off from work and go to the movies, where they seize the chance to hold hands by using the movable armrest. They go for a drive and take a walk on a suspension bridge, and Jung-hyuk recalls another time when he skipped class. He tells her how he skipped class to take photographs and saw a woman who was completely his type, standing on the edge of a high bridge, about to jump. Seri pouts playfully at the "my type" comment, but soon realizes he's describing her. Jung-hyuk continues, sharing that he has thought about her often since that day and then shows Seri the recorder he found in her desk. With a sense of wonder in her voice, Seri asks how many times their paths must have crossed without them knowing. She reflects that if it's true one's happiest moments are the last thoughts before passing, then this moment will be hers. The teammates finally get to eat at the crowded fried chicken restaurant, where everyone's eyes are glued to a soccer game on the big screen. Jisoo and Manbok pretend they don't care about the match, but their expressions change when they learn it's Korea versus Japan. By the time Jung-hyuk and Seri join them, they're jumping up and down, cheering loudly every time Korea scores a goal. After the game, Manbok steps outside for a cigarette and, to his horror, finds himself face to face with Chul-kang. Chul-kang says he was furious when he discovered Manbok had betrayed him and coldly asks if Manbok truly believes director Ri will protect him once he finds out that Manbok killed Moo-hyuk. He reminds Manbok that he's the one who has been supporting his family and even freed his mother from prison. Manbok pleads with Chulkang to turn a blind eye and let him make amends for what he did to Muhyuk, but Chulkang coldly forces him to choose Muhyuk or Wupil, his own son. That night, Junghyuk and Yoondong share one of Seri's guest bedrooms. Yoondong talks excitedly about visiting the PC cafe and playing video games for the first time, and Junghyuk listens with a gentle, indulgent smile, until Yoondong mentions his fight with Tomato Cultivator. Feeling angry because he was the one who didn't show up for the fight, Junghyuk abruptly storms out of the room. In the kitchen, he runs into Manbok, who is quietly crying from worry. Manbok goes still when Junghyuk softly apologizes for causing the separation from his family. Without a word, Manbok quietly shuffles out of the room. The village women visit Younghae once again. Myeongsuk reveals that she heard from Manbok's wiretapper friends that Younghae's husband was arrested because Chulkang was digging for dirt on Director Ri. With Junghyuk gone, they have no way to reach Director Ri to plead for leniency for the senior colonel, until Wolsuk suddenly remembers that Dan's so-called cousin is actually right here in the village. The group heads to the apartment together, running into Dan on the way. They let themselves inside just as Seungjoon steps out of the shower, and everyone can't help but stare at his bare chest while he tries to act casual and nonchalant. While Seungjoon got dressed, Dan quickly asked the ladies what they needed. Younghae shyly asked Dan to say something good about her husband to Director Ri. Dan snapped back, saying she doesn't handle personal favors. Seungjoon comes over and smiles. He informs the ladies that Dan actually is a kind heart beneath her sharp words. He promised to talk to his aunt about Younghae's request. One of the ladies mentioned she'd seen Seungjoon leaving Junghyuk's house not long ago. Dan quickly brushed it off with an excuse. But later, she caught Seungjoon alone and asked him, her voice sharp with anger, why he had been there. Seungjoon took a deep breath. He decided to be honest with Dan. He explained that Chulkang had followed Seri to South Korea, and Junghyuk was in Seoul trying to protect Seri and catch Chulkang. Dan's eyes filled with tears. Seeing this, Seungjoon reached out to comfort her, but she pushed his hand away and walked off silently, leaving him worried. After finishing his research, Colonel Go tells Dan's mother that Seungjoon is who he claims to be. But he also reveals that Director Ri's investigation found Seungjoon was one of the swindlers who had been secretly kept in North Korea. The only good news, Colonel Go says, is that Dan already knows about it, so at least she didn't get fooled by him. Dan's mother yells that this is no good news at all, and, frustrated, she chases Colonel Go around the house. Seri lines up the team and gives everyone skin mask treatments. Then she tells Jomok that she has an important errand for him. She dresses him up, putting a cute hat on him, and sends him off to a restaurant. At the restaurant, Jomok ends up meeting his favorite idol, someone Seri had promised him he'd get to see at the awards ceremony. At first, Jomok is too overwhelmed to speak. But when Jiwoo gently asks if there's anything he wants to say, he nervously recites a famous line from her drama, Stairway to Heaven. You said that people who love each other eventually meet, right? No matter how far you go, Jiwoo smiles and finishes the line for him, love returns in the end. Jomok pulls his hat down over his eyes to hide the happy tears streaming down his face. That night, Jomok asks Seri how she tricked him into going on the errand. She laughs and shows him that she had her fingers crossed while saying it was important. Yoondong explains to the others that crossing your fingers means you're lying, but it's okay somehow. Jomok thanks Seri for making his dream come true and says he can now die happy. Seri talks about the awards she gave the team, and Yoon-dong says it feels like they're saying goodbye all over again. Seri agrees, they say goodbye a lot, but it's good to say it while they still can. Then she scolds them for not using her card like she told them to, so she bought them gifts. Junghyuk checks that the team is ready to leave on the scheduled bus, but he says he'll join them later after manager Oh contacts him. Meanwhile, Manbok has apparently given in and sends an audio recording of their conversation to Chulkang. Chulkang calls Manbok and tells him he'll lure Junghyuk away through manager Oh, planning to kidnap Seri while Junghyuk is distracted. Sangha brings Sehyung to see Chairman Yu, who is furious at Sehyung for lying about where Seri is. The chairman tells Sehyung he made him the heir because he thought he was incompetent and would ask for help, but now he's so disappointed he plans to call another shareholders meeting to have him demoted. On her knees, Sangha begs for forgiveness. She shows Chairman Yu photos of Seri and Seungjoon together in Pyongyang. She suggests that Seri was working with Seungjoon to con Sehyung, as revenge for Chairman Yu forcing a takeover of Seungjoon's father's company years ago. Chairman Yu says he'll investigate, warning that if Sehyung is lying again, he will lose everything. Sehyung calls Seri and tells her to come to the house. When she agrees, he quietly gives Chulkang a map showing the route Seri usually takes. He coldly says he doesn't care what Chulkang does to her, as long as she never comes near him again. As Seri pulls away from her building, Manbok calls Chulkang to say she's on her way. He adds that he and the others will be leaving soon to catch their bus home. They're already late, and the bus driver is growing nervous. When Seri reaches a certain stretch of road, 3 vans suddenly surround her and force her to stop. Tough men carrying blunt weapons jump out and rush toward her car. Meanwhile, Junghyuk is summoned by manager off to an empty warehouse. There, he finds Chulkang waiting with about 20 hired thugs. Junghyuk declares that as long as Chulkang is in South Korea and Seri is in danger, he has no intention of leaving. The thugs attack, and Junghyuk fights them off with skill, but eventually one lands a heavy blow that doubles him over. Manager Oh, cowardly, slips away during the fight. Outside, he squints to see another car pulling up. 5 figures step out, Seri's teammates, dressed sharply and ready for action. In the flashback, Junghyuk finds Manbok crying alone in the kitchen. He gently asks if there's something Manbok wants to say. Manbok admits that this is the first time anyone has asked him to speak his own mind instead of just repeating what he was told. Taking a deep breath, he decides to be honest. He tells Junghyuk that Chulkang threatened his child, but this time, he's determined to fight back. Later, when Junghyuk talks to the team about leaving, all the teammates have their fingers crossed behind their backs while Manbok openly records their conversation to send to Chulkang. They warn Seri that Sehyung is planning something with Chulkang. So when Sehyung calls Seri to the house, they quickly make a plan. The teammates hide inside Seri's car. When the thugs attack, they jump out and fight fiercely. They seem to enjoy the chance to use their skills again, and even Manbok surprises everyone by leaping onto the last thug's back and knocking him out. Once the fight is over, they continue to the warehouse where Chulkang lured Junghyuk. They're joined by the men Seri hired to track Chulkang, and she sends them inside with a promise of 2 years free rent. Just when things start to look bad for Junghyuk, his squad arrives, bringing enough fighters to match Chulkang's thugs. Chulkang sneers at Manbok, then pulls a gun and fires at him. Junghyuk kicks the gun as Chisu flings Manbok to the ground. Everyone starts fighting, and Junghyuk loses Chulkang in the chaos. He finds Chulkang holding a knife to Manbok's throat, but someone comes at Junghyuk and distracts him for a moment, just long enough for Chulkang to drag Manbok outside. Seri is still in her car and witnesses Chulkang punching and strangling Manbok. Chulkang leaves Manbok lying on the ground and hides behind another car when Junghyuk follows him outside, and Seri watches in horror as Chulkang points a gun at Junghyuk. He pulls the trigger, but Seri drives her car between them, and the bullet shatters her window. Whirling around, Junghyuk sees that Seri is unconscious and he fears the worst. He shoots Chulkang, who survives the shot and staggers behind the car again. Chulkang reaches for the gun he dropped, but someone else gets to it first. Manbok, still alive and sobbing, lifts the gun, aims at Chulkang, and fires. Junghyuk opens Seri's door, and she falls into his arms, bleeding from a gunshot wound. Through her pain, he hears her whisper that when she dies, she'll remember the moment on the bridge as her happiest. As her words fade, his mind floods with memories of her, tying her hair back with his handkerchief, finding her in the crowd by holding up a candle, the soft kiss they shared at the hospital, all the moments that have come to define them. He tries to wake her, but then he notices how much she's bleeding. Frozen with grief, he can't find words. Silent sobs shake his body as snow begins to fall around them. In his heart, he thinks, no, it wasn't enough. I still have more to say. There's something I haven't told you. I love you. I love you, you Seri. Additional scene. Junghyuk tells the teammates he'll catch up with them later at the bus. Chisu speaks for everyone, saying that Junghyuk has more to risk than just his own life, he has them. In this moment, Junghyuk is as important to them as their country. Junghyuk says he can't ask them to risk everything, but Jomok interrupts, saying Seri has become just as precious to them. Kwangbum and Yundong nod firmly, ready to stand by Junghyuk no matter what. With a deep breath, Junghyuk gives his orders, do everything you can to protect Seri. I trust you. Later, the teammates rush outside and find Junghyuk holding Seri's limp body in his arms. They stand there feeling helpless and sad. None of them can lose her, they are ready to do anything for her sake. After being shot by Chulkang, Seri is rushed to the hospital in critical condition. Junghyuk and his team follow, but in the chaos, they miss their bus back to North Korea. At the hospital, Seri is taken into surgery, leaving Junghyuk standing helplessly in the waiting room. He watches the doors close behind her, unable to do anything. The team stands nearby in silence, the weight of the moment sinking in as they wait. He thinks back to the promise he made to himself when Muhyuk died, that he would never again lose anyone he cared about. For a while, he kept that vow by shutting everything out, happiness, music, love. It kept him safe, but it left him empty. Then he met Seri, and everything changed. He knew being with her would mean risking pain, risking loss, but he wanted her in his life anyway, even if it broke his heart. After Seri's surgery, Junghyuk stays close, quietly standing guard outside her hospital room. He doesn't leave, barely moves, just watches over her. Her family comes and goes, brushing past him like he's invisible. Only her stepmother spares him a glance. She sees him standing there, but says nothing. Still, he remains silent, steady, and waiting. When Junghyuk's father learns that neither his son nor the men he sent to bring him back have returned, a grim realization sets in. He knows trouble is coming, and that the military director, Chul Kang's powerful ally, will likely be his greatest obstacle. He needs to act, to make a plan, but for the first time in a long while, he doesn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Seri remains in a coma for days. At the hospital, a detective questions Secretary Hong about the shooting. Something doesn't sit right with Hong. Seri had been inside her car, a place she could have easily driven away from. It doesn't make sense. Nearby, Sutton breaks down in tears again. He pleads with the detective to find whoever did this to her, his voice shaking with emotion. Eventually, Seri's sister-in-law, Haeji, begins to notice Junghyuk's constant presence near Seri's hospital room. Curious, she asks about him, and Secretary Hong quietly explains that he's Seri's bodyguard. Sangha happens to overhear the conversation. Thinking of the mysterious man staying with Seri, she grows suspicious and demands that Secretary Hong send her Junghyuk's resume. Secretary Hong doesn't back down. He tells her firmly that if anyone has the resume, it would be Seri, and even if he had it, he wouldn't hand it over without Seri's permission. Meanwhile, the detective handling Seri's case approaches Junghyuk to ask him to act as a witness to the shooting. Junghyuk listens carefully, then asks if any other shootings were reported that day. The detective replies that there weren't. Junghyuk explains that the shooter was also injured and, because he can't go to a regular hospital, he's likely receiving treatment at an unauthorized clinic. He suggests the detective start looking there. And indeed, Chul Kang is alive, though barely. He's being treated in a grimy back room, filthy and hidden from the public eye. Manager Oh, who patched him up, stands over him with a grim expression, demanding payment and telling him to disappear. Chul Kang, weak but smirking, mutters that in the end, it was capitalism that saved his life. The senior colonel is finally released, and when he returns home, Young-ae bursts into tears. Overwhelmed with relief and frustration, she yells at him for never listening to her warnings about Chul Kang. Through her sobs, she scolds him for being so stubborn, blaming him for their son's foolishness, saying the boy clearly got his dumb brain from his father. Their son, standing nearby, shrugs and says, "She's not wrong." The senior colonel raises his hands in surrender, promising never to think for himself again, and pulls his family into a tight hug. To celebrate his return, the ladies throw a party. Young-ae arrives in the blue dress Seri had altered for her, proud and emotional. Before the festivities begin, she pulls Woil-suk aside and warns her not to drink too much and run her mouth like she always does, especially today, since they've invited Dan's mother. But the warning comes too late. Dan's mother shows up with a bottle of champagne, and before long, Woil-suk is tipsy and full of opinions. With her words slurring, she loudly announces that Dan and Junghyuk's engagement has been called off because Dan had a revenge affair with none other than Seung-joon. The room falls quiet. Dan's mother, stunned and offended, demands to know what Junghyuk could have done to drive Dan to something like that. Then, a memory strikes her, Jisoo, drunk and mumbling something about a bird from the south. Her eyes narrow as the pieces begin to fall into place. He was talking about Seri. Dan's mother, still reeling from what she heard, staggers to Dan's apartment. On the way, she thinks about how insistent Dan has been lately, constantly reassuring her that she'll still marry Jung-hyuk, no matter what. When she sees her daughter, she doesn't scold her. Instead, she quietly tells Dan not to worry about her anymore, and to live her life doing what makes her happy, not just what her mother told her to do. Meanwhile, Sangha and Sehaing decide to fire Seri's so-called bodyguard. With nowhere else to go, Jung-hyuk stops lurking near her room and instead stands outside the hospital, silently watching her window from below. Inside, her brothers argue over who should hire new bodyguards. Then, quietly and without warning, Seri wakes up. Her voice is weak, but firm. "Get lost," she says to her family, her eyes half-lidded with exhaustion. Once they leave, she reaches for her phone and calls Jung-hyuk. When he picks up, she gently scolds him for leaving her side without permission. Jung-hyuk doesn't hesitate. He runs back into the hospital and up to her room. The moment he sees her awake, the tears come, he can't hold them back. Overcome with emotion, he cries as he rushes to her bedside. He starts fussing at her, asking why she threw herself in front of a bullet for him. But Seri doesn't miss a beat. "You did the same thing," she says softly. Seri holds out her arms, and Jung-hyuk falls into them. They cry, releasing all the fear and relief they've been holding in. Before long, the teammates arrive, excited to see Seri awake. Jung-hyuk quickly stops them from hugging her, allowing only polite handshakes. He then asks how they knew she was awake. The teammates all look at Manbok, who lowers his head sheepishly. He admits that he didn't trust Seri's family, so he disguised himself and planted a bug under her bed. The team had been taking turns listening in, gathering useful information, like the fact that Seri's father is the chairman of the hospital, and that Sehaing and Sangha are terrible people. At one point, Manbok even reenacts an argument between Chairman Yu and Sehaing, much to the others' interest. They had been eating dinner when Seri woke up and immediately rushed to her side. Manbok then hands Seri a file and tells her it's something she needs to hear. Up north, Seung-joon worries about Dan after she walked away crying over Jung-hyuk. He texts her that he'll wait for her on the bridge, and though she grumbles the entire time, she still takes the time to fix herself up before she goes to meet him. She snaps that the State Security Department is still looking for him, but Seung-joon says he was more worried about her than himself. He confesses that he helped Jung-hyuk and Seri get together, and he offers to let Dan think of him as Jung-hyuk so she can hit him. Dan says she wouldn't feel better after hitting the guy she likes, so Seung-joon tells her to think of him as himself instead, and she socks him in the gut. Grinning, Seung-joon gasps that she's even more attractive to him now. Dan asks if he means it, admitting that she questioned her own attractiveness after Jung-hyuk left. Seung-joon reminds her that he doesn't lie to her and calls her a goddess, saying he can't hate her even though she's haughty and unfriendly. He says she makes him want to be a better man. Dan grabs him and kisses him, but then she makes herself shy and backs away. Seung-joon takes over, and this time Dan doesn't stop the kiss. Seri listens to the recording Manbok left for her. It's her stepmother speaking while Seri was unconscious. Her voice trembles with tears as she says Seri always treated her like a real mother, even though she never accepted that love. She explains that on the day she abandoned Seri at the beach, she regretted it and tried to come back, but by then strangers had already found Seri. She thought Seri would hate her after that, but Seri still loved her. That's when she realized she didn't deserve Seri's love because she had treated her badly. She sobbed, apologizing, and said the hell they've been through was her way of punishing herself by refusing to let herself be loved by Seri. Junghyuk finds Seri crying over the recording, but she says she's crying because now she'll have a scar and won't be able to wear a bikini. Junghyuk tries to cheer her up by proudly showing her his many, worse scars, grinning when Seri acts impressed. He points to a scar on his face, but when Seri says she can't see it, he cheekily swoops in for a kiss. Just as he's about to kiss her again, the teammates walk in and assume the worst, especially since Junghyuk's shirt is halfway off by now. Kwangbum quickly covers Yoon-dong's innocent eyes. Meanwhile, high-level South Korean officials gather to discuss the tunnel Chulkang and Junghyuk used to enter the country. They found evidence of North Koreans infiltrating through it, including CCTV photos showing two men exiting the tunnel a week apart. The officials suspect these men might be involved in Seri's shooting. Junghyuk meets with his contacts and searches for where Chulkang might be getting medical treatment, but Chulkang is nowhere to be found. By the time Seri wakes up in the morning, Junghyuk is already back at the hospital. He hovers over her so much that the teammates can barely watch. They complain that the lovebirds display is making them nauseated. Jisoo even says, "We haven't eaten yet." But Junghyuk and Seri don't notice them leaving in annoyance. A reporter camps out on a rooftop opposite Seri's hospital room, managing to get a picture of Junghyuk helping Seri stand. Though the moment is innocent, Seri looks genuinely happy in Junghyuk's arms. When the picture is published, Hyeji recognizes Junghyuk's broad shoulders immediately. Seri isn't concerned and even likes the picture, praising the reporter for capturing a flattering shot of Junghyuk's back. Later, Sehaying tries to enter Seri's hospital room, but Junghyuk, acting as her bodyguard again, refuses him entry. Sehaying lets his two bodyguards attack Junghyuk, but Junghyuk flips them both to the floor with ease, then slams Sehaying into the wall. Sehaying backs down and leaves, growling that Junghyuk will regret this. From his hidden hideout, Chulkang sends an email to the military director containing evidence that Junghyuk is in South Korea. He promises to return soon with Seri and get rid of Director Ri, so the military director can take his job. The detective meets with Chairman Yu about Seri being shot, and Chairman Yu is surprised to hear about the recent incident with Chulkang in the parking garage. The detective shows him a photo of Chulkang taken from a car's black box and tells him that Chulkang came here from North Korea through the tunnel. Since Chulkang is after Seri, the detective plans to investigate her as well. Seri's stepmother meets with Junghyuk and asks how long they've been dating. The teammates watch them secretly, and Jomok says he's seen this before in dramas. Usually the rich mother either throws water on the guy or offers him money to leave Seri. The teammates brace themselves for Junghyuk's reaction, and Jisoo hopes he takes the money. But instead, stepmom pulls out a card from her wallet and gives it to Junghyuk. She says Seri has always been alone, so she hopes Junghyuk stays by her side and invites him to call her if he ever needs help. Junghyuk asks why stepmom can't stay by Seri's side too, because he thinks Seri would want that. Chairman Yu visits Seri in the hospital, accompanied by the detective. He asks her if she knows the North Korean man who tried to kidnap her. Verily, Seri turns to the detective and asks if he would be able to catch the man if she gives him his name. Seri then calls her entire family to her hospital room, along with the detective, and tells them she has evidence that will finally shed light on the shooting. She plays another recorded conversation that Manbok captured with his bug, where Sehyung and Sanga voice their frustration over the news that Seri survived the gunshot wound. They argue heatedly about Chulkang and how Sehyung pushed him to get rid of Seri sooner than he had originally planned. With his face darkening, Chairman Yu angrily orders Sehyung to resign from his position at Queen's Corp and coldly announces that he is no longer his son. Sehyung, acting like a coward, quickly shifts the blame onto Sanga and complains that his father didn't make him the heir sooner. Seri's stepmother suddenly stands and slaps Sehyung hard enough to silence him completely. The detective then calmly instructs Sehyung to tell him everything, how he knows Chulkang, how much money he paid him, and exactly what he hired him to do. The military director visits Director Ri and shows him the photos of Junghyuk in South Korea that Chulkang sent him. He threatens to send the pictures to the general unless Director Ri agrees to retire. Director Ri laughs in the military director's face, dismissing the threat. He reveals that Junghyuk was sent to South Korea as part of a classified operation to bring wealthy businesswomen Yu Seri to the country to boost their economy. He tells the military director he can verify this with their higher-ups if he doubts him. Meanwhile, Seung-joon gets a call from Dan just as he notices some men arriving and rushing into the building. He correctly assumes they're after him, so he sneaks into one of the nearby apartments and hides while the men break into Dan's place. Seung-joon then slips out and heads to the roof, wondering if this is how it all ends for him, and why he's thinking about Dan at a moment like this. Suddenly, the door to the roof opens, and whoever steps out makes Seung-joon's jaw drop. From his hideout, Chulkang makes a call. In North Korea, intimidating men approach Myung-suk and Woo-pil, Manbok's wife and son, telling them that Manbok was in an accident in Pyongyang. Chulkang also calls Sanga and reveals that Junghyuk isn't just a bodyguard, but a soldier from North Korea. Sanga immediately informs the detective. Meanwhile, Junghyuk's contact sends him a message with the location of Chulkang's lair. He gathers the teammates and tells them he must take action, but they are not to leave Seri's side. He adds that if he doesn't come back, they must return to their families in North Korea. The detective and his team follow Junghyuk to Chulkang's hideout, warning them that these are elite North Korean soldiers. He tells his team to arrest Junghyuk and Chulkang as quickly as they can, but if it's not possible, to kill them. Junghyuk enters Chulkang's hideout alone with just his gun, and he catches Chulkang as he's about to leave. Chulkang says that Junghyuk can kill him, but that when he does he's as good as dead himself, and that his father will lose everything. They're startled by a bright light shining through the window, and the detective orders them to drop their weapons and come out. Chulkang drops his bag and raises his hands, sneering that maybe the universe is finally on his side for once. Junghyuk keeps his gun steady as Chulkang turns his back, hands still raised. Suddenly, Chulkang spins around with a gun in his hand, and a shot rings out. Additional scene. As Seri settles down for the night, she notices a small package waiting for her, a recording left by Junghyuk, along with a handwritten note. In the recording, Junghyuk gently talks about how she usually takes medication to help her sleep, but encourages her to listen to this instead. He plays the heartfelt song he wrote for Moo-hyuk on the piano, knowing how that very music once gave them both the strength and hope to want to live again. Earlier, Junghyuk had quietly visited her apartment and restocked her nearly empty shelves with food and essentials. Alongside it, He left a note telling her they should try to live each day as if they'll see each other tomorrow, even if it's only pretend. The note ends with a tender promise that even if Seri ever forgets him someday, he will be alright and carry on. Seung-joon tries to escape from the men chasing him but finds himself trapped on the roof of the apartment building. As he looks around, he wonders if this is the end, and why, of all moments, his thoughts keep drifting to Dan. Suddenly, the men catch up to him, and Seung-joon gasps in shock when their leader raises a rifle, and he recognizes him as his former trusted broker, CEO Jeon. Chul-kang receives an email from his North Korean contact explaining that Director Ri has provided a convincing explanation for Jung-hyuk's presence in South Korea, so they were unable to use it to threaten him. Chul-kang is told to kill Jung-hyuk, and that if he can't, not to return home. Jung-hyuk bursts in, aiming his gun at Chul-kang, but NIS agents who have been following him quickly order both Jung-hyuk and Chul-kang to drop their weapons. Chul-kang turns his back to Jung-hyuk, appearing to surrender, while the agents focus their weapons on Jung-hyuk. But Chul-kang pulls a gun from his waistband and whirls to shoot Jung-hyuk. Moving quickly, Jung-hyuk sidesteps out of the line of fire, and Chul-kang is struck by several NIS bullets. Collapsing to the floor, Chul-kang gasps that he has sent evidence of Jung-hyuk and Seri's relationship to North Korea, warning that Jung-hyuk cannot return home without risking his parents' execution. Chul-kang claims that Director Ri chose not to investigate Moo-hyuk's murder because he knew he would find that his own actions were at fault. Voice weakening, Chul-kang says that Director Ri probably wants Jung-hyuk to die here, which puts them in the same situation, so they should die together. He reaches for his gun, but he dies before he touches it. Sick with grief and believing Chul-kang's words about his father, Jung-hyuk raises his gun to his head. But the NIS agents burst in and arrest him before he can take his own life. In the village in North Korea, Wol-suk decides to shave her head out of shame for what she said to Dan's mother while drunk. Suddenly, a commotion outside draws the women's attention, and they rush out to see Myung-suk and Woo-pil being dragged away by two uniformed men. The men claim to be from the State Security Department, but Young-ae demands they send her regards to the department's director, Ma Young-sip. When the men agree, Young-ae reveals that Ma Young-sip is her brother, exposing their lie and forcing them to release Myung-suk and Woo-pil. She then tells them to stay at her place, where it's safe, until Man-bok returns home. It's no surprise that Seo-hyung blames Sang-ah for the fact that he's been disowned. However, Sang-ah says that they still have a card to play. She heard from Chul-kang that Seri's bodyguard and the other men who are watching her are all here illegally from North Korea. Chi-soo and Jomok decide to play a prank on little Yoon-dong, telling him that there's a mysterious person inside the vending machine who hands out drinks whenever someone asks. Yoon-dong completely falls for the story, and even apologizes to the machine for bothering it, while Chi-soo and Jomok quietly snicker behind his back. Man-bok and Kwang-bum are caught and arrested right in Seri's room by the NIS agents. Meanwhile, the others scramble to hide, terrified as they imagine horrific torture at the hands of the NIS if they get caught. Knowing he's an orphan with nothing to lose, Chi-soo bravely sacrifices himself by leading the NIS away from their hiding spot. Unfortunately, his plan backfires when he runs into a dead end, and as a result, all of them are ultimately captured and find themselves in handcuffs. Seri staggers down to the lobby just as the teammates are being taken away by the NIS agents. She desperately pleads with the agents to let them go, but the teammates are more worried about Seri hurting herself than their own fate. they shout at her to stay put and not follow. Seri breaks down, sobbing that all of this is her fault. Her stepmother tries to comfort her, but only ends up making herself sick from the stress. Inside the van, the teammates think about Donggu from Division 11 and how wildly he acted before. They figure he must have endured brutal torture, so as they approach the NIS headquarters, they steel themselves for the worst, expecting severe mistreatment and harsh interrogation ahead. Instead, they go through a surprisingly mild intake and medical exam. Chisu is then strapped to a lie detector, which makes him assume that electric torture is about to begin. So anxious and upset, he ends up contradicting himself so much that everything he says flags as a lie, rendering the test invalid. Afterwards, he's sent to eat and calm down, where Yundong joins him, feeling surprisingly upbeat after his own questioning. Yundong tells Chisu that the agents already knew everything about him, even showing him satellite photos of his hometown, and that he wasn't tortured at all. Meanwhile, Jung-hyuk is being held elsewhere in the building, refusing to speak or eat. The NIS agents worry about having the son of the director of the General Political Bureau in custody, knowing it could cause a massive scandal if it leaked. They correctly guess that Jung-hyuk plans to shoulder all the blame to protect his parents and Seri. Director Ri learns that Jung-hyuk and the others have all been arrested by the NIS. He feels somewhat comforted knowing that Chul Kang is finally dead and that Jung-hyuk is safe for the moment, but his informant warns him to prepare for the possibility that the situation could change. Seung-joon is taken somewhere by CEO Jeon, who scolds him the entire way for his perceived betrayal. Finally, CEO Jeon tapes Seung-joon's mouth to silence him and orders his men to stop at a hotel for the night. With Sehaeng disinherited, Sejun and Haeji celebrate, feeling they're getting closer to taking control of the family company. Meanwhile, Chairman Yu listens as Sehaeng tries to convince him that Seri's scandal involving a North Korean soldier is far worse than any of his own misdeeds. Chairman Yu snaps that he refuses to discuss family matters with someone who is no longer family. Sangha tells Seung-joon to drop the subject and wait until Seung-joon returns, promising that then they'll have plenty of evidence to use. Sejun and Haeji had been eavesdropping and immediately took this information straight to Seri and stepmom. They warn Seri that Sehaeng and Sangha plan to spin the situation to make themselves look like patriots, but Seri hesitates, asking if they're really planning to bring Seung-joon back. Meanwhile, Seung-joon remains tied and gagged in the hotel room. Once the other men, revealed to be hired by Sehaeng, fall asleep, CEO Jeon quietly slips out of bed and frees him. Seung-joon wanders through the bustling marketplace, searching for a way out of the village. Suddenly, he spots Sehaeng's men scouring the area and quickly hides behind a market stall. A boy taps Seung-joon's shoulder. It's the homeless boy whom Seri had fed when she first arrived in North Korea. The children create a loud distraction by begging, causing Sehaeng's men to swiftly leave the area. The song they sing, about orphans with no one to care for them or mourn their passing, strikes a chord with Seung-joon, reminding him of his own situation and bringing tears to his eyes. Once the coast is clear, Seung-joon confides in the homeless boy that he, too, is an orphan with no one to mourn his passing. Grateful for the boy's help in saving his life, Seung-joon hands him a generous fistful of cash. As he continues on his way, Seung-joon spots a pawnshop and recalls Seri mentioning that she had pawned the diamond ring he once gave her. Meanwhile, the NIS holds a briefing where they review CCTV footage of Jung-hyuk's activities since arriving in South Korea. Though they're searching for any sign that he's a threat, the footage only shows Jung-hyuk performing kind acts, holding doors open for people, retrieving balloons stuck in trees for children, and helping an elderly woman push her cardboard cart up a steep hill. Growing frustrated, an NIS agent tries to interrogate Jung-hyuk again. Jung-hyuk lies, claiming that he came to South Korea to persuade Seri to return to North Korea, along with her money and business expertise. He also insists that his teammates were here only to compete in the military world games and that he had forced them into his business against their will, preventing them from going back home. The NIS agent clearly suspects Jung-hyuk is lying, and when he shares this with Seri, she firmly insists that Jung-hyuk never tried to keep her in North Korea. Instead, she explains that he risked his life multiple times to help her escape back home. She says Jung-hyuk only came to South Korea because Chul Kang was trying to kill her, and all she truly wants is for Jung-hyuk to return home safely, even if that means accepting whatever punishment comes with it. At the next NIS briefing, the agents agree that Seri's version of events seems the most plausible. Their attempts to question the teammates yielded no results, so they decide to bring Seri to speak with Jung-hyuk directly. However, Jung-hyuk coldly ignores her when she tries to talk to him. Seri, undeterred, tells him she knows he's acting this way to protect her. In response, Jung-hyuk admits with a cold edge that he initially used Seri because of her wealth and influence. Though he acknowledges developing feelings for her, he claims his real reason for coming south was to seek revenge on Chul Kang for murdering his brother. Seri breaks down, sobbing that if he takes all the blame, he'll be branded a criminal and never be able to return home. Jung-hyuk responds that seeing her like this troubles him more than the thought of losing his own life. Overwhelmed and exhausted, Seri can't handle any more and collapses in the hallway. The NIS agent gently tells Jung-hyuk that he was too harsh with Seri and informs him that she's being carried out unconscious. At that moment, Jung-hyuk suddenly leaps from his seat and rushes out of the room, catching a glimpse of Seri being hurried out of the building. Overcome with emotion, he finally lets the tears he's been holding back fall as he watches her go. Seri is rushed to intensive care after being diagnosed with sepsis, caused by her still-healing gunshot wound combined with extreme physical and emotional stress. The doctor grimly informs stepmom that there's a high risk Seri might not survive, and all they can do now is wait and hope for the best. Back in the village, the worried ladies fret over the fact that Myung-suk still hasn't heard any news from Manbok. In response, Myung-suk suggests they visit the fortune teller again. Unfortunately, the fortune teller reveals a grim truth: a state security department officer was having an affair, and as a result, his wife was arrested, adding a layer of fear and unease among the villagers. Later, the ladies find Seung-joon loitering outside and kindly invite him in to eat. Clearly starving, Seung-joon devours the food so quickly that Wol-suk jokes someone must be chasing him. After eating, Seung-joon leaves and heads to Jung-hyuk's house, just as Dan calls him, after finding her apartment ransacked and noticing he's gone. She goes to meet Seung-joon and immediately feels flustered being alone with him in the dark, so she lights a candle to chase away the shadows. The absurdity of the situation, being in Jung-hyuk's house with Seung-joon, doesn't escape Dan, and she can't help but laugh nervously. Seung-joon, however, shrugs it off, saying Jung-hyuk wouldn't mind since he was the one who set him up with a broker and even gave him a South Korean phone. Seung-joon then confides in Dan that Seri's brother sent people after him, and he's planning to leave for Europe the next day. He asks her to take him to the airport, And though Dan agrees, she pretends not to be bothered by the fact that he's leaving her behind. Seung-joon mutters with a hint of disappointment that she could at least pretend to try to stop him, even if just as a joke. Feeling overwhelmed by the moment, Dan stands up to put some distance between them, but Seung-joon gently grabs her hand, stopping her. He admits he's been trying hard to live a good life but still feels like he's at the bottom of everything. Then, almost shyly, he slips his diamond ring onto her finger. He tells her it's the very ring he bought for Seri, but that Dan was the one who originally picked it out, and it's the best he can give right now. He adds that if things get better for him down the line and he ever comes back to visit, and if she's still single, he hopes she'll give him a chance. Dan breaks down in tears, and Seung-joon pulls her into a warm hug, promising her that because he likes her, he'll always remember which direction to go. Not having found anything incriminating on Jung-hyuk, the NIS agent turns his attention to the teammates' activities while they were in South Korea. His aide informs him that all their expenses were charged to Seri's card, but it's mostly trivial stuff, small purchases like video game items at a PC cafe, downloads of popular South Korean dramas, all starring Choi Ji-woo, and purchasing Noribang snacks. Frustrated, the NIS agent gives up on digging deeper into the teammates. Instead, he shows Jung-hyuk Chul-kang's laptop, revealing a hacked email that directly contradicts Chul-kang's earlier claim. The message clearly orders Chul-kang to kill Jung-hyuk, disproving the notion that Jung-hyuk's father had abandoned him or wanted him dead. Realizing that his father never gave up on him after all, Jung-hyuk finally breaks down, his emotions surfacing as he quietly asks about Seri's condition. Dan keeps her promise and drives Seung-joon to the airport. But when they arrive, she can't bring herself to say goodbye. Without even glancing at him, she turns and walks away in silence. As soon as her taxi pulls away from the curb, tears stream down her face. Lost in her heartbreak, Dan doesn't see the shady vehicles trailing behind her. Soon Seung-joon gets a call from someone who says that he'll kill Dan unless Seung-joon gives himself up. Seung-joon tries to act unfazed, pretending he doesn't care what happens to Dan. But the caller's voice is cold and serious. He makes it clear that the threat is real. Dan's life is on the line. He gives Seung-joon 1 hour to show up at the location he just texted, or she dies. Seung-joon pauses for just a moment, then rips up his plane ticket and rushes into the nearest taxi without a second thought. Driven by fear and desperation, he races to the warehouse address. As soon as he arrives, he storms inside, rifle in hand, and opens fire at anyone who threatens Dan. His only focus is protecting her, no matter the cost. He takes down most of Sehyung's men, but one of them gets off a lucky shot and hits him in the shoulder. He calls out to Dan that he's okay, then continues shooting, but the last man shoots him in the stomach before Seung-joon kills him. As Seung-joon watches Dan running toward him, a faint smile touches his lips. In his fading consciousness, he thinks, I was wrong. When I die, there will be someone who cries for me. And the fact that it's you, it makes me both sad and happy. Seri lies unconscious, drifting into a dream that takes her back to the moment she was swept into North Korea. In this dream, she already knows everything, every joy and every heartbreak, and how the story will end. Yet, even knowing it all, she chooses to live it again. Because it means she gets to meet Jung-hyuk and love him once more. Jung-hyuk is told that Seri has taken a turn for the worse. He's allowed to go to the hospital, where he can only watch helplessly as doctors work to save Seri's life. He thinks to himself, if I could turn back time, I wouldn't meet you. You wouldn't get to know me, then you would be safe and happy. Seung-joon also has a revelation as he's being rushed to the hospital in an ambulance, Dan crying over him, if one of us must die while the other lives, if that's fate, it's only right that I die and you live on. A tone sounds, signaling that someone has died, but between Seri and Seung-joon, it's left uncertain who lost their battle to survive. Additional scene. While carefully reviewing the CCTV footage of Jung-hyuk, the analysts noticed a series of subtle but telling behavior every time he was near Seri. He consistently positioned himself facing her, almost as if he was always protecting her. He mirrored her gestures, small movements like the tilt of her head or the way she adjusted her hair, and instinctively stepped in to block or fend off any men who came too close. The aide leaned over and quietly told the NIS agent that these were unmistakable signs that Jung-hyuk cared deeply for Seri. The agent, visibly frustrated, snapped back, anyone with eyes can see that. It's completely obvious to anyone paying attention. While rescuing Dan from her kidnappers, Seung-joon is shot. As he collapses, Dan runs to him in a panic. He manages a faint smile and gasps that he's okay, trying to reassure her, before slipping into unconsciousness. On the way to the hospital in the ambulance, Seung-joon stirs awake. Through her tears, a devastated Dan tells him that if he had come back for her, she was ready to give him a chance. She truly was. Seung-joon asks weakly what she meant that night when she said, I like it. Was it the Ramyun, or was it him? Dan gently replies that she meant him. A faint smile touches his lips as he whispers, I knew it, before his hand slips from hers, lifeless. He's gone. Meanwhile, in the intensive care unit, Seri continues to fight for her life, her condition worsened by the sepsis brought on from the stress of her visit to see Jung-hyuk. Agent Kim, recognizing the depth of Jung-hyuk's love for Seri, quietly bends the rules. He allows Jung-hyuk to go to the hospital and he waits outside her room, even if he's not permitted to enter. Just being near her, even from a distance. To her family's shock and fear, Seri flatlines in the hospital. The room fills with tension as doctors urgently work to revive her. Thankfully, after a few heart-stopping moments, they manage to get her heartbeat back, easing everyone's panic slightly. Stepmom notices Jung-hyuk standing quietly nearby once again. Seeing the deep concern in his eyes, she turns to Agent Kim and gently asks him to let Jung-hyuk stay, in case Seri takes another bad turn or wakes up calling for him. The teammates continue to be treated surprisingly well by the NIS, even getting to eat meals together. Chiso brags proudly that the agents seem to like him so much, they're basically scouting him. But his ego quickly deflates when the others casually mention that they've all been asked if they want to stay, too. A week later, back in North Korea, Director Ri meets privately with the military director to discuss a plan to bring Jung-hyuk and his teammates home. Director Ri proposes exchanging them for a few South Korean spies who have been imprisoned without a formal trial. The military director immediately pushes back, clearly opposed to the idea. But Director Ri doesn't back down. He calmly slides over a set of documents sent by the NIS, proof that the military director was in regular contact with Chul Kang and may have even ordered him to eliminate Jung-hyuk. Realizing what's happening, the military director understands the deal on the table. In return for Director Ri keeping quiet about his involvement with Chul Kang, he must do the same about Junghyuk's defection, which was driven by love. After a moment of thought, the military director agrees, but with one condition: he wants full control over the soldier exchange process. Once Seri wakes up and begins to recover, her stepmom gently tells her the news: Junghyuk is being sent back to North Korea immediately. Seri tries to stay composed and says it's probably for the best. She's already said goodbye to him so many times, and she doesn't want him to see how weak and sick she's been. But stepmom isn't fooled. She tells Seri that while she was unconscious, Junghyuk never once left her side. And when Seri finally opened her eyes, stepmom saw the look on Junghyuk's face, a look full of overwhelming love. But instead of stepping closer, he backed away so that Seri wouldn't see him. It had clearly broken his heart to leave her, but he hadn't resisted when Agent Kim came to take him back into custody. Stepmom had seen everything, and she knows the truth. No matter what Seri says, she desperately wants to see Junghyuk again. Overcome with emotion, Seri breaks down in tears and pleads with her stepmom to take her to him. On the bus heading to the soldier exchange site, Junghyuk and his teammates ride in heavy silence. They're relieved to hear Seri is going to be okay, but they are sad too. Junghyuk says nothing, his face unreadable and his thoughts elsewhere. Agent Kim watches him carefully, clearly concerned by the weight Junghyuk is carrying. Stepmom drives as fast as she can, determined to get Seri to the exchange site in time. On the way, she calls Agent Kim and begs him to delay the exchange. Understanding the deep love between Seri and Junghyuk, Agent Kim agrees and promises to stall for as long as possible. Meanwhile, the teammates and Junghyuk arrive at the exchange location. Agents from both countries move toward the military demarcation line. Agent Kim tries to buy a few extra minutes, but the North Korean officials grow impatient, insisting the exchange must proceed immediately. One by one, the soldiers from both sides cross the line. Then, Junghyuk steps over into North Korea. At that very moment, Seri's car screeches to a halt. She jumps out and cries Junghyuk's name as she sees him and the teammates being placed in handcuffs. Without thinking, she runs toward him, yelling that he can't leave her like this. Junghyuk's heart races, his first concern is for her health, and he pleads with her to stop running. But Seri doesn't stop. As she nears the border, Junghyuk can't hold back any longer. In a split second, he turns and runs toward her, crossing the line back into South Korea. He catches her in his arms just before she collapses, holding her tightly as if letting go would mean losing everything. Agents from both sides draw their weapons, tense and alert, but for Junghyuk and Seri, the world narrows to just the two of them. Seri's eyes fill with fear as she watches Junghyuk and his teammates being handcuffed by their own people. Her voice trembles as she asks why this is happening. Junghyuk gently reassures her, promising that nothing bad will happen to them. He looks into her eyes and says he's thankful for the gift of meeting her, for the days they had together, and softly apologizes for the harsh words he said when he pushed her away. Tears streaming down her face, Seri asks the question she's most afraid of: will they ever see each other again? Junghyuk gives her a quiet but steady answer: to wait, to pray, and to believe that someday, somehow, they will meet again. And then, with all the love he's held inside, he finally says the words she's longed to hear: I love you. Seri chokes back her sobs and tells him she loves him, too. The moment hangs between them, and then Junghyuk is pulled back across the border. Just before he disappears from view, He turns for one final look, eyes lingering on her as if trying to memorize everything. The teammates call out their goodbyes. Jisoo tries to act tough, but his voice cracks, and Yoon-dong throws Seri a finger heart with a trembling smile. Back in North Korea, Director Lee receives the call confirming that Jung-hyuk and the men have returned. Without delay, he sets off to bring them safely home. But things take a dark turn. Instead of heading to Pyongyang, the military director has the men driven deep into a remote forest. Still in handcuffs, they're ordered out of the vehicle. Jung-hyuk immediately senses something is wrong and demands to know why they're not being taken to the capital. His voice is calm but laced with rising alarm. The military director says that they'll be court-martialed and executed anyway, so it's better they die here and save their families the trouble. Jung-hyuk insists he's the only one guilty. His friends were simply in South Korea for the World Military Games. The military director laughs darkly, saying Jung-hyuk's friends will keep him company in death, then signals his men to raise their guns. In the next few moments, things happen very fast. Manbok jumps in front of Jung-hyuk, but Jung-hyuk holds him and turns around quickly while the teammates gather closely around them to protect. Bullets are being fired, but it's the corrupted soldiers who are hit. More men run out of the forest, followed by Director Lee, who calmly approaches the military director. Director Lee scolds the military director for trying to execute them without a proper trial, warning that this could lead to innocent people being killed. He continues, "But it's different when I witness someone trying to kill my son. You aren't innocent." The military director starts to draw his pistol, but Director Lee is ready with his own weapon, and he shoots the military director at point blank. Director Lee and Jung-hyuk return home, and Jung-hyuk quickly apologizes for causing his father so much worry. Director Lee reassures him, saying he's just thankful Jung-hyuk is alive. When he asks about Seri, hearing her name makes Jung-hyuk break down in tears. Jung-hyuk's mother showers him with care and attention, and while it's clear he's happy to be home, a deep sadness still lingers in his eyes. Meanwhile, Manbok comes back to the village and immediately notices Wupil, not being left out or bullied anymore, but happily playing with the other children. Myung-suk scolds Manbok gently for not staying in touch while he was away, and they both cry with joy, grateful to be reunited. Things are very different for Dan. She's overwhelmed with grief over Seung-joon's death and refuses to eat or get out of bed. She just wants to be left alone. But her mother gently reminds her that she and her uncle are there to support her. After some thought, Dan decides to accept their help and tells them that what she really wants is revenge. Their first step is arranging a meeting between Dan and CEO Jeon, who looks like he's taken a serious beating for letting Seung-joon escape. Dan demands information about everyone involved in the events leading to Seung-joon's death. She promises CEO Jeon that he won't face any punishment for helping her, because none of those responsible will leave the country alive. Meanwhile, back in South Korea, Sehayang keeps blaming Sangha for his troubles. He's furious that she hired men to capture Seung-joon, hoping to use him to discredit Seri. He's also angry that she paid Chulkang to kill Seri after he thought she'd gone too far. She stays silent and takes his phone from the car, noticing that he's been secretly recording their conversation. She tells him she did everything for his sake, but Sehayang shouts that he's lost everything and might go to jail. Sangha calmly assures him that she made sure all the evidence is covered up. Chairman Yu then calls everyone to his home, including Seri, who has just been released from the hospital. Seri admits that she's already been questioned by the NIS and expects to be prosecuted. Sangha smiles smugly at this. Chairman Yu then explains that, given the special circumstances, Seri will probably only face a suspended sentence or a fine. Seri tells Sehyang that he and Sangha could face up to 10 years in prison for hiring known criminals. She calls out to Agent Kim, who is waiting just outside with Manager Oh. Manager Oh proudly reveals that CEO Jeon in North Korea has provided plenty of evidence against Sehyang and Sangha. Agent Kim arrests them on charges including solicitation of kidnapping and murder. Sehyang makes a desperate plea to his father, asking him to consider the company's reputation, but Chairman Yu cuts him off sharply. He says he's removing the corrupt parts of his family and that Sehyang is on his own. When Seri finally returns home, she finds that before leaving, Junghyuk had fully stocked her kitchen with food. Overwhelmed, Seri cries again, moved by how much he cared for her, even after he was gone. But the biggest surprise comes when she goes to bed and receives a text from Junghyuk. He'd asked Agent Kim to teach him how to send scheduled messages. The text says he still has so much to say to her, but his most important message is hidden on her bookshelf. Just like Seri did in his room in North Korea, Junghyuk had rearranged her books so the first letters of each title spell out, "You Seri, I love you." The text messages from Junghyuk keep coming at unexpected times. He reminds Seri to eat well, spend time with loved ones, and enjoy life, just as he's doing too. Sometimes, they even take walks at the same time, apart but still connected in spirit. The teammates have returned to work at the demilitarized zone, but their time in South Korea has left a deep mark on them. They've picked up a lot of slang and talk about missing simple things like French fries, internet, hot running water, and of course, Seri. Seasons change, and spring arrives. Dan's mother visits the village wives while helping Dan move out of her apartment. She brings gifts, skincare products from a recent trip to Europe, and the women are surprised to see their own faces and names on the packaging. These new products are from Seri's choice, inspired by and named after each of the ladies who welcomed Seri into their lives. Dan's mother tells them she no longer holds any grudge against Seri, having learned how kind and caring she really was. The women quietly tear up, remembering their friend. While packing, Dan finds the blue jacket Seung-joon wore on the one day they spent together. They had gone for a drive, and Seung-joon had made her laugh, joking and singing to break her usual serious mood. Later, Dan walks alone on the bridge where Seung-joon once kissed her, allowing herself to cry for him one last time. Dan's mother visits Junghyuk's mother to officially end the engagement. She explains that Dan no longer wants to marry Junghyuk because she's in love with someone else, and that man loves Dan more than his own life. Later, Dan goes to Junghyuk's house to end things face to face. While there, memories flood her, especially of Seung-joon giving her the ring. She tells Junghyuk that she was with Seung-joon while he was gone in this place. They were here for some time. Junghyuk asks about Seung-joon, who had helped him a lot. Dan only says that Seung-joon went far away and will never return. Dan recalls her trip to Switzerland to see Junghyuk, how he spent more time taking pictures than being with her. She found his old, broken camera when she stayed over at his place and took it with her, planning to throw it away. But instead, she had it fixed. Looking through the pictures, she finally understood why Junghyuk had barely looked at her in Switzerland. Later, Junghyuk looks at the photos and smiles when he sees the one he took of Seri on the suspension bridge. In spring, Seri receives a scheduled text from Junghyuk saying that planting season has begun. Along with the message, a pot with seeds is delivered to her. Junghyuk's text explains how to care for the plant and says she'll discover what kind it is once it grows. Seri complains that it sounds like a lot of work, but she carefully follows his instructions, even speaking kind words to the plant, like sold out stock options, limited edition products, and Junghyuk, just as she once told him to do with his tomato plant to speak lovingly. Junghyuk's loving and encouraging messages keep coming, and even Seri's employees start noticing the positive change in her. Through the texts, Seri feels connected to Junghyuk, sharing moments with him across seasons they never spent together. On her birthday, one final scheduled text arrives. There's a 1-year limit on these messages. Junghyuk talks about the plants, which have blossomed into edelweiss. He says he wants to meet her in the country where edelweiss bloom and adds, if we both try our best, perhaps fate will be on our side. Up north in the village, the women are excited because Junghyuk's squad is returning from the front line today. They prepare the house just as they always do and dress up to warmly welcome their handsome captain home. Over dinner, Junghyuk breaks the news that he's being discharged from the military and has been chosen as the new pianist for the National Symphony Orchestra. He asks the ladies to be just as caring and kind toward the new captain as they have been with him. The new captain is Jisoo. They are shocked with the update. They all force smiles, mostly for Jisoo's sake, trying to be polite even though they feel awkward. With Sehaing no longer around to cause trouble, Seri and her family have become much closer these days. Technically, Sejun now runs Queen's Corp, but he was smart enough to hire a professional manager as per Seri's suggestion and mostly remains a figurehead who spends most of his time playing golf. Seri invites Sejun to help her set up a scholarship foundation for disadvantaged children who have musical talent, so they can attend a prestigious music school in Switzerland. A big part of the reason Seri is doing this is that she hopes Junghyuk will see news articles about the students' performances in Switzerland through the program and come find her. However, every time she visits, she returns home disappointed, which makes stepmom feel sorry for her. But Seri tells stepmom that Junghyuk has always found her before, and she's confident he'll find her once again. Seri travels to Switzerland once again, and for a brief, magical moment, she thinks she sees Junghyuk playing the piano in a busy town square. But it turns out to be someone else, and although she leaves feeling disappointed, her determination to find the love of her life again only grows stronger. Deciding to take a break, she tries paragliding but ends up landing awkwardly on a hillside. She mutters to herself that her landing was terrible. Suddenly, she hears a familiar voice say, "I don't think your landing was that bad. I think you fell in the right spot. Actually, you didn't fall, you descended." Seri emerges from beneath her parachute and sees Junghyuk standing there with a playful grin. After a moment of stunned silence, she wraps her arms around him, tears flowing as she says she knew he'd find her. She asks how he managed to get there, and he jokes that he got on the wrong train, which luckily took him to the right destination. Then, he kisses her. Additional scene. Dan's mother has heard about the remarkable fortune teller from the village ladies, so she decides to call her. The fortune teller reveals that Dan has already met the love of her life, but they parted ways 3 years ago. She predicts that Dan will remain alone but will achieve such great success that she won't need a man. Dan happily confirms that she prefers to stay single and focus on her music, so her mother decides to find a man for herself instead. Manbok leaves the military and moves his family to Pyongyang to start a new career in sound design for a film company. Meanwhile, the teammates remain in the village under their new captain, Chisu, who recently visited the black market vendor to get some of the fancy Seri's choice products. Seri takes another trip to Switzerland, where the featured pianist performs the song Junghyuk wrote for his brother. Just as the music begins, Junghyuk arrives, and he and Seri hold hands under the table, enjoying the exhibition together. They spend 2 weeks every year in a small mountain villa, happy and deeply in love.